It is a new year, and that means a full year of things to happen for the Carolina Hurricanes. I give my predictions as well as some Twitter predictions from you listeners as to what 2024 will hold for the Carolina Hurricanes in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this Tuesday evening. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, download the game and create an account and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. You will not regret it, folks. I love using Game Time, and you will as well. So go download that app. And of course, Happy New Year, folks. It is 2024. Finally, we can put 2023 in the rear view mirror. So any bad things that happened to you in 2023, you ain't got to worry about it anymore. It's a clean slate now. So, and it is a clean slate for the Carolina Hurricanes, somewhat obviously, we are in the middle of the season, but I want to give my predictions for this new year. And I feel like a lot of folks are kind of having the same predictions. I know a lot of them are pretty obvious. Just when I put the tweet out today on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, a lot of folks, kind of had the same sentiment of, just kind of what we're thinking. And then, just seeing, post stuff, on Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Everyone's kind of sharing the same sentiment of what they think will happen. So if you're having the same predictions, let me know. And of course, if you have something different, let me know as well. But let's dive into this. I do have, some of these are, broken down or split into things I think could maybe happen in the off season to stuff that could happen right now. As far as next season, I'm really not going to touch on that a whole lot, just because that is so far away and we don't know what the remainder of this season holds, the postseason and the off season. So we're not really going to touch on the 24-25 season, but we will a tad. But diving into this here, first off, my first prediction is that the Hurricanes get back on track for the season. Heading into tonight, they were really rolling. Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov had, God, it was, what was it, 35 points in like the last, few games or something like that. Let me I don't remember what exactly it was. I was at work when I saw the tweet, but Sebastian Aho, he's putting up killer numbers. He had the one of the NHL's first stars of the week for this past week. We're gonna look to see what exactly he was at, but it feels like guys are really starting. He was the first star of the week last week with 2 goals, 9 assists in just 3 games played. So it feels like they are having guys really start to get back on the right track. They had a rough start to the season. It feels like they are getting back on track. I do think it starts with those top guys, the stars. You had Rod Brind'amour calling those guys out, saying the top guys need to play like top guys. So and they are starting to have that, and I really do hope that continues, and I think it will, because we've seen that before, where it kind of gets to this time of the year, things really kick into gear for the team overall. Obviously, there's gonna be lulls. We're gonna see it again, folks. They're gonna get in another lull. It's just gonna happen. But I do think they are going to get their season back on track with the way they want it to go. As far as the goalie situation, that brings me to my next prediction: is that they make a goalie trade at the deadline. I think that is kind of inevitable unless things, just turn around and, Freddie Anderson's able to come back and he's playing good. If Auntie Ranta, he's looked good, since he's came back from Chicago, in the couple games he played. But as a whole, I do think kind of father time is starting to catch up to him, and we'll talk more about that later. Pyotr Kochetkov, he's looked good as well for the most part, but again, there are still the games where they leave a lot left to be desired. You just look at the season as a whole. Again, a lot left to be desired there in the goaltending department. Again, things have shifted a little bit in recent games, but I do think they will make a trade for a goalie at the deadline. I really think they will. Even if folks are able to play to where they need to be, just kind of as an insurance policy, I guess. They brought in Aaron Dell on a PTO. Really haven't heard much outside of that, whether it went well, went bad, released, not released, whatever. Haven't really heard anything there. So I guess they have that insurance policy already. How, or at least they think they do. How it goes, I don't know. Um, but I do think a goalie trade is inevitable, whether it be tomorrow or trade deadline day. I think that is something that is going to happen. It's just going to be how big of a splash they decide to make in the goalie department. I think another. Speaking of Sebastian Aho, we talked about him a little bit already. I do think he is going to take his game to the next level. I think you could tell a lot when they're in that lull, just the frustration coming out of that locker room, and Sebastian Aho is acting like a future captain of this team. And again, he was just the first star of the week last week. I think he is going to continue to improve his game. He does kind of year after year, but I think just that lull they were in the middle of the season really could be the fire for him to really do it, because we've said it a lot, in the offseason, after playoff exits, he's frustrated and all that. We've talked about things he said in press conferences, following playoff exits and whatnot. But I think it happening now is it's good. It was obviously wasn't good for us to watch, but is good in the sense that it was able to light a fire under them, and they can keep that fire going throughout the remainder of the regular season into the playoffs. I think that is something that is really, really good. And it just doesn't stay with Sebastian Aho either. He's just kind of the main name I have wrote down. I think you can see Andrei Svechkov. He's another guy since he's came back into the lineup. He's looked good. Steph Nazen, he's had a really good season as well. You finally have Orlov and Chatfield clicking there on that pairing. They're starting to improve. I think all around you're going to see improvement out of this team. That kind of goes hand in hand with them getting back on track for their season. But I do think Sebastian Aho, he's going to be a guy that you're really seeing a lot of highlights of him taking his game to the next level. And, again, Svetch as well. I would love to see this from Marty Necas, Seth Jarvis. Also, obviously we know Jacob Slavin, he's going to be really good. He's not going to get the highlight reel stuff, but you know what you're getting out of him. I would love, for our goalies, whether it be Freddie, Pyotr, Antti Ranta, whether it be any of those guys, for them to take their game to the next level as well. That would all be stuff I would really, really love to see. But we do still have a few predictions for the regular season as well as the off-season ones, and we will dive into those right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, we've talked about Game Time a lot here on this show, but if you're new here, let me tell you about Game Time, because I love this app. And buying tickets can be frustrating sometimes, whether it be you're can't get a seat you want, or they're too expensive, whatever it may be, Game Time has you covered, and you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert or a game or whatever. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all these sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you, with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Again, they have those last minute deals, flash deals, zone deals, and it's easy to buy events for any kind in your area. And they have their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. One of my favorite things about Game Time is that you get views from all of the seats in the venue. You're not going to be surprised by an obstructed view, whether it be a wall or a pole in front of your face or whatever. You're not going to get surprised by that. I used Game Time a while back when me and my friend, when we went to AEW Collision at Greensboro Coliseum, and we were sitting down, going through like, oh, where do we want to sit, and we found a great seat in the lower bowl. Looking directly at the ring, directly at the ramp, absolutely fantastic seats. We got some great pictures. And we had a lot of fun, and Game Time made it super easy for us to figure out where we wanted to sit. And I absolutely loved using it, and you will as well. Again, you get those deals on tickets right up to the start of an event, and even an hour after it starts is the best place to find last minute seats, because sometimes you may get off work early, you may have the day off that you didn't know you would, and oh, your favorite band is in town or your favorite team is playing. Game Time has you covered, folks. So again, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, getting back into predictions for the Hurricanes this season, this is kind of my first, I guess, negative one, and that is that Rod Brind'amour will not be the coach of the Metro team for All Star Weekend. He has been for the past couple seasons, but as a whole, this season, I don't think that's going to happen. If the Hurricanes were kind of having a normal season to their standards, then sure, of course, he'd be in the mix. And I'm not saying he's not going to be in the mix. It's Rod Brind'amour. He's one of the best coaches in the NHL. So, to say, he wouldn't be in the mix, that'd kind of be foolish unless they're like, last place or something like that. So I do think, yeah, he's going to be in the mix. And the Hurricanes, they have, bounced back some. They were kind of middle of the pack in the Metro as of recording right now at 9:05 p.m. They are sitting at second in the Metro at 20, 13, and 4 with 44 points, behind only the New York Rangers at 25, 9, and 1 at 51 points. I think kind of right now, Peter Laviolette, he's probably the front runner for that. Unless the Rangers, just kind of completely collapse. I don't even know if all-star voting for the players is up yet. So, things can obviously change. The Hurricanes can gain ground on the Rangers, and, Brind'amour, could get that over Laviolette. That's kind of a fun, yeah, I guess matchup there. The Hurricanes Stanley Cup winning coach against the captain, of that same team and their current head coach. It's also important to note that the Hurricanes have played 37 games and the Rangers have only played 35, at least, what is listed right here. Obviously, I know they are playing right now. I don't believe that's counted there. But you look at the season as a whole, I just don't know if that would happen. Again, it's Rod Brind'amour. He's going to be in the mix. They're second place in the Metro right now. So, of course, it could happen. But also, I just think, the Hurricanes season as a whole, I just don't know if that will happen. But that's just something we're going to have to wait and see as far as, who the Hurricanes All-Star will be. Probably Sebastian Aho, Jacob Slavin. Those are kind of really, the two guys for me, in terms of players that I think could be on the represent the Hurricanes on the All Star team. Those are the two guys, for me right now at least. And again, voting's not even open yet for that. That should be coming soon though. Um, but yeah, I just don't know if that's gonna happen, and then, again, earlier I said I do think, the team will get back on track for this season. As of recording, they've won 3 straight. We'll see. Last I looked, they're up 3-1 in the game going on right now, but looking ahead, to the playoffs, this is another one that's pretty negative, but looking at the past few years, I think kind of a safe bet that they are going to have a key injury or injuries leading into the playoffs. You look at last year, you're missing Andrei Svechnikov and Frederick Anderson, really key pieces on the team. Like you were missing Frederick Anderson the year prior as well, if memory serves correct. Um, but I just feel it's inevitable. Just the way things have went for the Hurricanes over the past few years. This is a prediction I absolutely want to be wrong. I don't want to be right about this at all. But I think and injuries are going to happen to all the teams. Got all the teams in the playoffs. They're going to be missing guys. But I think the Hurricanes, they've missed some key guys in years past. Unfortunately, I think that may end up happening again this year. Do I want it to be Svetch? Absolutely not. But you look at the year he's had in terms of injuries, it wouldn't surprise me in one bit. Again, this is a prediction I fully want to be wrong. I want to be wrong about this, but I think it's inevitable that the Hurricanes will get hit with the injury bug again heading into the playoffs. Yeah, it's not going to be a guy that a depth guy. I think it'll, again, just in years past, they've missed, key guys in the playoffs, and it just feels like it'll happen again. But again, I want to be wrong on that, but we'll just have to wait and see. As far as the off season goes, we're going to pivot to there. This is one that it's a prediction that does have an asterisk by it. And it is making a move for a goalie. That being said, and that's if they don't do something at the deadline. Um, I think the goalie move in the offseason would be if they don't make a move at a deadline, or if they make a trade for someone. I don't know who they would, and what their contract status would be. Then maybe their offseason goalie move is signing that guy to an extension. Or again, they get someone in free agency leading into next season. Ultimately, I think that one right there kind of depends on what they do at the deadline, really. Um, I think it's inevitable that they will, whether it be at the deadline or in free agency, they're going to have to make a move for a goalie, plain and simple. Um, but it's just kind of going to be when is it going to happen? Is it going to happen within the next month and a half, or is it going to be something that happens this summer? That's kind of the big question there. I honestly could see it going either way, um, because it is such an evident weak spot for the Hurricanes right now. I could see them doing it at the deadline, but they've said many times, "Oh, we like our group. We like our group. We like our group. We like our group." And then they don't do anything. But I think they're going to have to. It is so evident that they need to. They're gonna have to. I think it's just becoming that big pink elephant in the room that they just can't ignore anymore. It's just gonna be how long can they continue to ignore it before they can't. And they could already be having those discussions. We just don't know it really. We aren't in those meetings, on those phone calls, seeing those emails, what have you. And so it will happen. It's just a matter of when. Another thing is, a lot of people aren't going to like, but I do think, we are going to have one or more players moved slash leave, whether it be at the deadline, whether it be off-season free agency, off-season trade. I think we are getting to the point now with the team that it can't always be these depth guys that are getting moved. I think I've said many times before. If you want to get good in a trade, you got to give good. So I think it's inevitable that it's going to happen. It's just going to be who. During the offseason, we were talking a lot about Brett Pesci and Brady Shea. Both of those guys, are on expiring deals. Yeah, as far as extension talks, haven't heard anything about any of the guys that are pending free agents. But if something, if they know like, hey, this isn't gonna work, maybe you see him at a deadline move. Again, they need to make a move for a goalie. Say they make a move for a top level goalie, and they got to give up someone good. Right, maybe they give up Brady Shea. Maybe they give up Brett Pesci, Teuvo Teravainen. Um, it's not something that I think is out of the realm of possibility. I think honestly, it's probably likely it's gonna happen. Um, Especially if it's clear that those guys aren't going to come back, because we've seen countless times before, with sports teams and just this state of North Carolina in general, of management doesn't make the right move, and then they lose these guys for nothing in the off season. Obviously, these guys could totally come back, and this is all null and void. Doesn't matter. Um, but I do think it is inevitable that we are going to lose some key players on this team that aren't necessarily untouchable guys. I've said before, that some guys are more likely than others. But at the end of the day, no one is technically untouchable because Wayne Gretzky got traded. If he can get traded, anyone can get traded. Um, and so, you look at that. Obviously, if Wayne Gretzky can get traded, Sebastian Aho can get traded. Is that gonna happen? No. Unless you're, offering, like Connor McDavid or something like that, Sebastian Aho ain't gonna get traded. And even then, I feel like they would probably try to alter the deal a bit to be able to keep Sebastian Aho and move some other people instead. So, I think we are going to see some key guys move on from Raleigh again, whether it's in a trade, free agency. I think both are pretty likely to happen. It's just gonna be a matter of who, plain and simple. Another thing is, this is another one that kind of with an asterisk. If the season doesn't improve, which it has, but say it goes off the rails, or come playoff time, if it's another disappointing playoff run, if it's another first or second round exit, I think we could see a roster overhaul. And not just the kind of bottom six, bottom defensive pairing, kind of overhaul that we've seen over the past few years. Like, no, I think again, a guy like Teuvo Teravainen, who generally plays on your top two lines, a guy like him getting moved. Um, you know, at, I've said before, Brett Pesci and Brady Shea, both those guys, expiring deals, they get moved or just leave in free agency entirely. Same with Tavo. Uh, I could see some of these uh, players, that a lot of folks love, finding new homes. You can't always keep everyone, and you know, it's gonna suck when it happens, obviously. Because folks love watching these guys. Folks love interacting with them. When they see them after games or see them in public. Folks love these guys, and they are good ambassadors for the organization. And it's gonna suck when it does happen, but eventually it is. And I think should it go poorly in the playoffs, I do think it's got to happen. You can't keep saying we like our group, we like our group, we like our group, we like our group, when you keep having these playoff runs where you're not necessarily living up to expectations. Like last season, I said, Eastern Conference Final was, my expectation for the team, or where they need to get. They're coming off, several, second round exits before that. So, and they did meet that, but then they got swept. Yes, they were missing Svetch and they were real beat up. But again, history isn't going to see that the way you and I will. They're going to see, oh, Florida swept Carolina. That's what they're going to see. Unfortunately, but if they have a first or second round exit, I think they could really see it. We could really see them having that roster overhaul. Who gets moved, who stays, I don't know. Um, that would just be something we'd have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But I did want to dive into a couple of the Twitter predictions as well from you guys, and we will dive into those right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, it is time for the NFL season to start wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, whether it be live same game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. That's the best way to find popular parlays. And of course, there's much, much more. Obviously, we also have the NHL season going on right now, NBA season's going on. Before we know it, baseball season's going to be here as well. So there's so much for you there on FanDuel. So visit fanduel.com/locked on to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Now, quickly diving into the Twitter predictions. We got two here. First one being from at Eric K8 saying Burns and Shea finish top of the team defense for points. Aho hits 100 points. Team adds a goalie. I think where is Burns at right now? We're gonna have to look at some stats for this one. But I think the goalie one, I definitely agreed there. I think it's got to happen. Um, let's see. Brady Shea is currently sitting at 21 points. Brent Burns at 19. Shea is at 8th. Burns is at 9. And actually, right now, those are the top two defensemen in terms of point. Jacob Slavin is also right there with Brent Burns at 19. So I do think that one's a possibility, especially with Brady Shea. I do think it's a possibility for both those guys. They're right there together. God, what was it last year? Burns set the franchise record, so I think it's fully possible. For that to happen. Burns has been a bit slower to get started this year, but he has been rolling. So I think it's a full possibility for both those. Aho to hit 100 points. That one's going to be interesting as of right now. On the NHL or on the Hurricanes website, obviously leading the team in points by a large margin, actually. In 34 games played, has 15 goals, 27 assists, and 42 points. So I do think if he can keep up the momentum he has, I do think, yeah, it's a possibility. But that's the one I'm a little hesitant to say. Again, he is leading the team in points by a large margin. Next is Seth Jarvis in second at 37 games played, 13 goals, 14 assists, 27 points. So I think it's a possibility, but it's one I'm a little hesitant to agree on. Again, if he can keep the momentum he has going right now, I absolutely think, yeah, he totally could. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. Because I've thought that in years past, and he hasn't. He has came close, and I do think he will get close to hitting that 100-point mark. It's just kind of going to be whether or not like he can again take it to that next level. Again, something I said earlier, I do think he will take that game to the next level. And I hope he does. And if he does, I do think that 100-point mark is a real possibility. That's just one we're going to have to wait and see. Um, I want it to happen. I really do. I really do. I'd love for him to finally put that feather in his cap of having the 100-point season. I would absolutely love for it to happen. Next up, finally, we have at Canes Hockey 92 says Canes finished top five in PK and top 10 in power play. We finished second in the Metro. Anderson makes his return backing PK. I think the penalty kill, we're gonna pull up the stats on that just to see where the team is. Um, but I think it's a possibility. The Freddie returning, I agree there. Um, does he back up PK? I think it will happen to start out. It's just going to be how long does that last? That's the big thing. How long will that last? Um, let's see. Power play. Hurricanes are currently sitting at number 5 in the league on power play at 26.6 percent. So that as of right now, that's totally a possibility. PK, on the other hand, they are at 10 in the league right now at 82.6. And where did you have them? What was it? It was top 5 in PK, top 10 in power play. So both are like as of right now. You got them flip flopped, but I do think both of those are totally real possibilities. I think the penalty killing one is a bit more likely just with the Hurricanes' track record as a whole under Rod Brind'amour. But I think both are real possibilities. Second in the Metro, I agree on that. I think, unless the Rangers just bottom out completely, I think that's probably going to happen there. I would love for them to keep their conference, or excuse me, not conference championship, division championship streak going. I'd love for that to keep going, but just with the kind of start they had to the season, I think that kind of, I don't know how that will go. Uh, I would love for them to, but I do think you probably are on the money though. But the goalie prediction one, that one's interesting. That one's interesting. I think I think it will depend on Freddie's health. If he's able to play at the level we know he can, then I don't think so. But if he appears to have missed a bit of a step, taken a step back or whatever, not necessarily being bad by any means, if he's backing up PK, he's obviously still gonna be good. Um, that one's going to be interesting. Ultimately, I think that's kind of going to depend on how Freddie is like when he actually comes back and knocks some of that rust off and gets in his rhythm. If he's able to, you know, I, I think it's not one I'm ruling out, but it's one I'm interested to see how it plays out, if that makes sense. It's an interesting prediction. It really is. And I think ultimately that's kind of the tandem the Hurricanes are wanting of Freddie and Piotr. I think that's kind of how we could see things going. And one offseason prediction I did forget to mention before we go, since we're talking about goalies, is that Antti Raanta will retire. I think it. I think he's going to retire. He's definitely not going to be with the Hurricanes next year. That's for sure. But ultimately, I think, especially if, the Hurricanes go out on a high in the playoffs, say they win the Stanley Cup, say they live up to those preseason. expectations. I do think Auntie Ronsa will retire. Um, I think we really seen it this year of just it's kind of funny. We all call him Father Finn, but Father Time appears to be catching up with him, and it sucks to see. But you look at his career as a whole, all the injuries he's had and whatnot, and he's got sent put on waivers and sent down to the AHL, which he wasn't happy about. He obviously did because he's a pro's pro, but it's just something I just don't know. I just feel like, time's caught up with him. Um, you look at him, this season, he's 34 years old. He 15 games played, 7 wins, a shutout, 3.56 goals allowed, 0.855 save percentage. Not really good in terms of his stats, this year. Again, team, in front of him wasn't good either, and that definitely did not help, for sure. But he just hasn't. He's a guy that does appear to have lost a step, and I think ultimately, it's gonna be time. And his birthday is in May. He'll be 35 on May 12th. He's been in the league since 2013, so 11 years now. I think, ultimately, I think it's a real possibility that Auntie Ronta retires after the season. He's definitely not going to be a Hurricane for sure. Maybe, if another team out there needs, a solid, another goalie on their books, then maybe. Uh, but ultimately, I just think it's getting to that time for him. And I really hope, that the Hurricanes can, end his career on a high. I would love for that to happen, but ultimately, it's kind of what I think could happen. But with all of these, my predictions, your predictions, in season, off season, all those predictions, we just got to wait for them to happen. We still got it's January 2nd. We still got a full year to go to see how these go. But make sure you guys leave me your predictions down in the comments on YouTube, whether you agree, disagree, whether you have a different one that you want to talk about. Let me know. And again, in the comments on YouTube or on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96 or at LO_Hurricanes. Let me know your predictions for the Hurricanes in 2024. I really want to know them. And as always, folks, we will be talking about the game that's going on right now against the New York Rangers. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And, the good, the bad, you guys know the drill at this point. So make sure, again, you're following along on social media, subscribed on YouTube. And I will talk to you guys in the next episode. And let's go, Canes.